talking about like your modeling experience, I know like you've organized and directed like many modeling shoots where you've explored ideas about like blackness and societal norms and mental health, some of the stuff we're talking about right now. Um, can you speak on like what sparked those ideas for you as your like as part of your starting point in this scene and the message I guess you wanted viewers or observers of art to get out of that?
For sure. So speaking on my journey, I have been absolutely blessed with friends who are like, you can do it. Like you have it. Like you can, go for it. Do this. Do the modeling. Do the styling. Do the this, that, and the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And to be surrounded by, it's not. A lot of people will be like, so you're surrounded by yes men, and it's no, that's not it. Because if anything, me and my friends are like super critical on each other to hone each other to create the best art. But I
Right.
have a lot of people who are like, if it's what you want, you can do it, and can't nobody tell you no.
Mm.
So when I started doing it and I started getting involved in the scene, a part of me was like, I am I have a privilege and a platform that I need to use to speak on some things that are
Mm-hmm.
wrong with the very industry that I want to be a part of.
Right.
Um, I have an opportunity to make commentary on the lack of awareness of men's mental health in society in a place where men are told don't show emotion, don't cry, don't be too feminine, don't be too
Mm-hmm.
soft, don't be you're I have a son, not a daughter, I want a boyfriend, and all those norms.
Yep.
But it's like that erasure, especially for men who grew up and they weren't like super, like I have never been the super masculine boy's boy.
Right.
And I grew up in an area where I was bullied because of that very reason. And I had never been able to be told that like it's okay, you're just you.
Yes.
You decide what makes you a man.
Right.
So now when I got into a place where I could be that and I could live in that, I wanted to share that joy and that discovery, that self-discovery journey with those around me. So I wanted to create art that showed that, and that showed that like you get to be whoever you want to be, and you get to call it whatever you want. You slap whatever label on it. It's up
Yep.
to you.
Right.
And then I also wanted to create art that showed me as a plus size male in these like, you know, fashionable, stylish moments where like, I mean, if you look at the fashion industry right now, there are no plus size men who are like plus size men
Mm-hmm.
with guts, who are plus size men, who people would be like, oh, he looks sloppy. No, he's fashionable. Like you don't see those type of
Mm-hmm.
men.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to also contribute to that story and contribute to that vision of like, no, we can be fashion too. We can be models. We can be creatives.
Mm-hmm.
And through that journey, I discovered that there are more men who think the same way. There are more people doing the work that I'm doing, and I've been able to build a network and create more art around these concepts. That's what's been pushing me is being the person that I wanted to see when I grew up. When I was growing
Mm-hmm.
up, I wanted to see somebody who looked like me on the screen, and I never did. And if
Right.
I did, they were a background character. I think about everybody loves America's Next Top Model. It
Mm-hmm.
was like the go-to modeling TV show that anybody who ever wanted to model or was interested in fashion, they loved.
Yes.
Back in like season 3, there was the first plus size girl
I remember
to
watching that.
compete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first plus size girl to compete. Her name was Takara.
Mm-hmm.
I recently rewatched the whole entire series, and I'm watching the season and finding out that Takara was like not even 6 foot, but almost 6 foot. And she was like 180 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that the way they spoke to her and the way they attacked her for being that weight, because that wasn't a model weight, and
Yeah.
the way they criticized her and ridiculed her, and how damaging and hurtful that is to plus size bodies watching that show and growing up and seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you want to watch when you're like, I want to be a model, and I'm bigger
Right.
than Takara, so
Yeah.
I just knew that like after seeing stuff like that and experiencing stuff like that, I wanted to be positive representation of plus size bodies within this creative sphere. And I wanted to focus. I know I had a huge issue with my mental health, especially in college. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to speak to that and not pretend that everything was okay, because when we cap and we front for social media, people tend to think like, oh, people who do all this, they have it all together. They have it all going on. And that is
Mm-hmm.
not the case at all. So I wanted to speak to that struggle too and just be real and honest and vulnerable. And I think that's where I've created my best art and my best work. So
Right. No, I agree with that. I remember like watching it and even I guess even just coming from Ghana and stuff and just knowing how like and even just if you just look around, like everyone's body type and body shape is like different. And you would, and even the people that would consider like plus size, some of them just look like the average sized person, but they've already
Mm-hmm.
categorized them like they're actually not the norm. And I guess that was part of like the nature of that industry. So I'm glad it's just stuff that you're touching on as well and bringing to light. Um, but another question I have is like, how do you actually start that process? Like, how do you get to, oh wow, okay, I literally have a set, I have a space, and I literally was able to mobilize people to do these set things for me to get this vision complete. Like, what does the first step look like, and how do you get to where you're at now with that?
As anybody who is around me can tell you, especially my close friends can tell you, it literally all starts with a conversation. I'll be like, I want to do something like this. And we'll like talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and manifest it until one day we're sitting down at a table and we're like, so how can we make this happen?
Mm-hmm.
My friends, and I'm shouting out a couple people, Mia Marshall, Janita Kilgore, Markia Hart, Danny, Kat Burton, all of
Uh-huh.
those amazing women have sat down with me at one point or another, heard an idea that I had, and like we ran with it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we said that we were like, these are the logistical things that need to get worked out by this date, and we will make it happen. And we just go for it. And it's an awesome thing to be surrounded by friends who are also a team when
Yeah.
I need them to be a team. So because that means they'll believe more in the vision that I'm trying to create and see it, you know, and do
Yep.
whatever they can to make it happen. So that, for instance, if we think about my mentality show,
Mm-hmm.
um, back in November of 2019, in October of 2019, I sat down at a table with actually with Joe Lowry, who's a photographer. I sat down with Joe and I was like, you know, I've been thinking of creating this space to talk about men's mental health, but I've
Uh-huh.
also wanted to do like an artistic components, like maybe like a gallery to do this space. And Joe literally looked me in the eyes and he said, well, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
how quickly can we get this done? And I was like, can I pull something like that off?
Mm-hmm.
Kat arrived, Mia arrived, and we sat down at this table and I'm telling them this idea, and these people are looking at me and they're like, so let's make it happen. What do you need us to do? And I was very taken back. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't think I'm important enough to pull something like that off. I don't think I'm big enough to pull something like that off. I don't think I know the ins and outs of the industry to pull something like that off.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, it's just as simple. Like, who do you want to be in it? Where do you want to have it? What do you want to? And they're
Just
asking all
like
these
that.
thorough questions, and it's literally just planning it all out,
Yep.
asking, get your yeses, get your nos, and striving and doing it. And so I was, like I said, I'm blessed. I'm really blessed to be
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by these people. But what I'm learning is it is just like if you have the dream and you want to see it come to fruition, you
Yeah.
have to plan it out and you have to actually just do it. It cannot be a conversation forever.
Right.
Um,
Right. No, that's a very like strong point you're bringing up because a lot of the times a lot of ideas get stuck with that one person and get stuck in their head and it's never on paper, it's never out there for like deliberation. It's almost like you're protecting the dream so much that you actually don't end up going through with it. Like
for
maybe
sure.
what if it
And
fails?
I think another like facet to that is just access and people believing if they have access to something or not,
Mhm.
especially as like black kids from poor neighborhoods. Like, you know, I'm from the hood. You know,
Yeah.
I'm from Hazelwood. I've felt not having money. I've looked at the friends who show up in the new nice stuff and been like, well, I can't afford that, so I must not be
Yep.
important. And obviously I'm blessed now to be able to have my own, to be taken care of and provided for when I was needing to be taken care of and provided for by my amazing parents. Um, I've been blessed in those areas, but there was a message always sent to black kids who are in middle to low income households that you don't necessarily have access to do things like this. So
Mhm.
getting out of that mindset and being like, oh wait, I can make the access, I can make it happen, and I can go for it.
Yep.
It's just it's another layer that a lot of us have had to unpack and a lot of us are still unpacking, but it is a barrier that once overcome, the world is yours and you can do what you want. And making that jump for me was definitely important. That there was a point where I was like, I cannot afford to do stuff like this.
Right.
I don't have access, I don't have resources. And we made the access, we made the resources, we made it happen.
Right.
So
No, that's cool. That's really cool. Like, cause honestly, I think the first time I saw like one of the modeling shoots, I was like, who is this person? Cause I'm like, cause first I didn't even think a lot of this stuff like existed like in the Pittsburgh like scene already. Then
yeah,
I'm seeing you do this, I'm seeing you do another thing, and I'm like wait, something is behind this, because what's really going on, like how is this being planned out, like, and it just takes that, it takes you actually getting out there, talking to people, um sharing that vision and planning it out, like just actioning it, all the things out essentially.
yeah, for sure. And I want to just like put this out there,
Hmm.
for anybody listening. The only reason that I have had that direct, like I'm recognized as a creative or an artist or model in the city.
Yeah.
The very first project I ever did was Kat Burton and Joe Lowry. They put on a show called Reclaim Roles.
Okay.
Um, Kat was the first person in the city, the very first person to ever reach out to me and be like, I think you would be perfect for this shoot. We're doing
Mm.
this thing. I think you would be incredible. I've seen the stuff you've done on Instagram. Let's take it to the next level. And I was like, she reached out to me. I remember talking to my friend Mia and being like, you won't believe what happened to me today. Like somebody wants to cast me in a shoot, like this, that, and the other. And I was like freaking out. I made my parents come to the gallery opening when it happened, and I was
Oh,
so excited. And from that relationship and that networking experience, that was like the pushing that showed me I can do this
keep
and I
going.
can keep going for sure.
Hmm.
Definitely, it was an unforgettable experience, but that I needed that because then I was shown that like I can actually do this and I'm actually good at it. So
Right, right. And see, even just talking about these things, there's one thing that came to mind a lot, at least from like one of the courses that I really enjoyed back in college. It was like, I think it was a philosophy class, and it talked about W. Du Bois and like his concept of like the veil, double consciousness. And
mm-hmm.
pretty much it just talks about, I'm sure you probably already know it, but where it's pretty much the state of a black person having to constantly and more permanently see themselves both as who they are and how society views them. And the difference is that the other people in society don't go through that. They can go through it like once or twice or a couple times throughout their day, but it's almost again permanent for us, where we always have to think from the perspective of how does that person see me when I do this. Maybe when I raise my voice as a black person, it doesn't come off the same way as another person getting upset about something. Like we start thinking on those we start thinking like that, or getting programmed to think like that throughout our whole existence. And for us, it's more of a survival thing than anything.
100% is,
Yeah.
and we're still doing it today.
Right.
I literally, I'm viewing apartments right now, and I went. I was FaceTiming one of my friends, and she was like, "Why are you dressed up?" And I was like, "At the end of the day, when I leave this house, I'm a big black man.
Mm-hmm.
If I did not look presentable, if I did not put on my meek, nice to meet you voice,
Mm-hmm.
people will be scared to even give me a chance.
Right. Right.
Terrified.
Right.
I can't pull up with my music, but I have to think about that. But then I also have to remember to stay true to myself and be
Exactly.
myself and express myself in ways. And for me, that is clothing and walking. So, like you said, it's that double consciousness that Black people are constantly battling. I love that. I love that you
Yeah.
brought that.
And some of your work. So when I saw some of your work with like toxic masculinity and talking about black mental health, having the photo shoots where you even did a photo shoot that I was part of, where it was the
Mm-hmm.
veil, and that was the first time it made me remember that putting yourself in a space where you're allowing yourself to be like viewed upon in your natural state, so you're not in your protective wanting to look strong or vicious or um you can't hurt me, like breaking out of that mold and just trying to just be your natural self and showing your emotion. And when I thought of that, one of the things that it brought to mind was how maybe toxic masculinity um, coincides with that veil that we always have to like consistently like put on, where like it can get toxic because we're in a society where we've been told that one simple difference we have is such a big problem when it's not. We've been vilified for it for so long that sometimes I wonder whether some of that toxic masculinity that we bring up is because now we don't even want to be different amongst ourselves anymore. We like,
Yeah,
mm-hmm,
that and I love. I'm happy you brought up the project that you were a part of, and the focus. I had that was my second mentality, and that focus was specifically on the plight of men's mental health for Black men.
mm-hmm,
Um, and you talked about the concept of the veil and the veil representing like that sheath of emotions
mm-hmm,
that we put up, like that front, so that the real us is underneath, and it's not we're not as vulnerable, but it was like the see-through veil, so you can see what we are looking like and what we're going through and how we're struggling and the emotions that we're going through.
right,
And that was very important for me to show within my art. um, I think it's always interesting when people look at um, Black men, and especially like with the things that like Black men are criticized for and ridiculed for, that our white male counterparts are worshipped for, and
mm-hmm,
are hired for, are casted for, are chosen for,
yeah,
being like those strong, tough, hard exterior, very manly men. That's attractive for white men, and but strong and tough and hard exterior Black men are monsters and animals and this
uh-huh,
is terrifying and are scary, are thugs, or and
yep,
that being that double standard. Um, and so toxic masculinity affects men as a whole, but
mm-hmm,
the way that it affects black men in that layer of like, not only can we not be too tough and we can't be too scary and we can't be too big, we also can't be too soft or else we're
yep,
easy targets. We're fighting a battle outside of our community, we're fighting a battle inside of our community. We have never had that safe, you're allowed to just
be
be.
you,
Nobody's
yep,
ever just come out and been like, all right, we're gonna stop, criticizing Black men. And this isn't me saying that like Black men have it the hardest. We all know it is Black women. Black
yep,
women are, the most
100%,
unprotected. Yeah, we
mm-hmm,
know, and I am surrounded by amazing Black women, and I'm so blessed. So please, anybody listening, I don't want anybody to be like, so is he saying Black men have it worse? No, I
of course
understand the
not,
struggle. I'm
yeah,
just talking on my experience and on the projects that I've worked on.
right,
This is the reason why, is that I wanted to speak to giving Black men that safe space to just be, and what
mm-hmm,
that could look like. And I've been lucky to work with Black male creatives who share that same vision. I was so lucky to have you on that project, which you were incredible. And anybody listening, please go to the Create Art Together Instagram and check out Brent's pictures and some of my other projects. But
thank you,
Leo, Nate,
mm-hmm,
Jameer, who's one of my past students, who is just absolutely incredible. And I look up to him because he's taught me so much about what it means to be yourself and to create that space and to be
yep,
the best at doing that, and how people will praise you because of that.
right.
He's so talented and he's so incredible. And so I've just been lucky to be surrounded by incredible Black men who have really pushed the barrier on what it means to be a Black man and what it looks like to be a Black man, and creating your own space and how to do that.
How has your art journey alleviated some of like the pressures you feel as a Black man? And if it hasn't, what helps you stay centered? Because we're still dealing with all these issues in real life, but you're able to create a space where you dream of something greater, you dream of something better. How does it you being in that space help you um I guess stay centered or stay positive minded about everything?
I think so. I oftentimes think about other like Black men who are like considered like famous creatives, and
Mm-hmm.
um, what they do, and are they super pro Black, and are they like toxic men? Are they like, what are they like, and how do they show that in their art?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily sure that the correlation is that my art has centered me in being pro Black and being pro mental health, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it is who I've surrounded myself with within the creative sphere and how that's reflected in my art.
Okay.
Um, I could easily, and I mean really easily, be surrounded by a bunch of white people and make art that is not authentic to me and my own experience, but
Mm-hmm.
that caters to a mainstream audience and is easily digestible, and
Yeah.
everybody will just love it, love it, love it, praise it,
Yeah.
praise it, praise it, you know. But I am surrounded by Black people, Black women especially, who challenge me to be authentic and true and honest,
Mm-hmm.
um, which like challenges me to create authentic, true, and honest work.
Right.
Um,
Right. No.
and that is a lot of me struggle. Like, I will be the first one to tell you, I used to struggle, and I still struggle, but not as bad. But I used to really, really, really struggle being held accountable and being challenged.
Mm.
And so I think opening that door to the ability to be challenged and to be held accountable as like, are you doing what's necessary? Are you doing the work? Are you
Yeah.
doing important work? Is it true to you? Is it true to your experience, to your people, to your identity? Or is that what you're doing? Or are you just putting out anything just to put out anything? I've had a
Uh-huh.
lot of conversation with friends where I'm like, well, is this gonna look, does this fit? And just being surrounded by people who are challenging me to put out authentic work
Right.
was what was necessary, and what centers me in being like super pro Black, super pro men's mental health,
Mm-hmm.
um, talking about and then super accepting to even more than that. So caring about uh, all marginalized demographics and
Yep.
whatever that looks like, and trying to give visibility to everyone and use my platform to help everyone. Um, it's only been because of the people who I've been surrounded by, for sure.
It reminds me of like something that me and my friends went through actually during this pandemic, because we were for like, I mean, the first couple months we're like, okay, this pandemic has given us time. Everything is kind of shut down. We can create stuff. We can make stuff. Like, we can focus on like other goals now that maybe I don't have to. I'm lucky enough maybe to not have to walk into work every day, X, Y, and Z. And for a while, it was like we would say stuff, but at the end of the week, we'll like talk to each other like, what happened? Nothing, nothing. And then we actually started creating a list of goals, and tracking each other and holding each other accountable, just like what you're saying. Like, oh, did you do this? Did you do that? Like mine, for instance, I love sweets. I love just eating whatever. And I would work out, but I'd work out and not and do no cardio, zero. And one of the things was like, okay, no, I have to work on my cardio. I have to work on my cardio. And then I started running. Like a 10-minute run for me was like hell. Like I was like, hell no, I can't. And I just had to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And I had friends that were able to keep me accountable. Like, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? And it was amazing the change that happened. Like up to now, I still run like 5 days a week. And I think it's very important to have friends that are not just friends, but people that will hold you accountable and care about you to the point where they care about what you're investing yourself in and the dreams that you want to achieve as well. So that's a very
One
strong thing that you bring up.